Hey everybody, welcome to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. My name is Reed with Best Made Videos. We are a wedding videography company based out of West Seattle, Washington, and I am so excited today to be joined at my house for a change. We do a lot of these online anymore with Zoë Burchard with Zoë Burchard Studio Photography. Thank you so much for coming in. We've been trying to kind of remember where we met the first time, and it was an interesting wedding years ago when I was still getting started. And why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Zoë Burchard, and I'm a intimate wedding and elopement photographer. Reed and I met at a tiny wedding in Kent a long time ago when we were both at the beginning.
I know you always kind of look back. We had Paul Marinin. He's like a photographer. We've done like weddings lately together, and he's pretty good. And I was looking back. We had actually shot the first wedding we had ever done together, and I had no idea. And I was like, "Holy God!" We
started together.
Yeah, but sometimes because you're like, "Where the hell did we meet? Like, what's going on?" So awesome. Well, why don't you just kind of describe your style, what you like to do, and what kind of motivates you to be a photographer in terms of like style and that sort of thing.
All right. So I started shooting personally like 13 or 14 years ago. And I've grown a lot. I didn't even used to photograph people. I started photographing clouds and flowers like every other like 12-year-old. And now I've come to realize that my favorite thing is to work with couples, mostly exclusively. I don't really do children photography or anything like that. I'm not great with kids, as most people know. But yeah, I like to shoot a little bit more on the moody side, but still true to life colors. And yeah, that's my style more or less, and kind of relaxed. And I don't like to be overly posy with things. Like to go out and like have a lot of fun and adventure. Like this weekend we did an engagement session out in Leavenworth, and we just got in the car and drove around and hung out and started the day off with ice cream, and it was great. And it was just like hanging out with friends. It wasn't like a production. Pretty much. Yeah.
And I mean, in looking at your site, it just screams kind of like you said, that kind of Pacific Northwest kind of thing. Talk about building those connections with clients. I mean, it's so hard nowadays. And I always think it's kind of undersold, like, just how much a connection you should have with like all of your vendors. But I mean, especially photographer, you're going through the engagement, everything leading up, all these intimate details. So talk about kind of like having that friendship. And like you said, like grabbing ice cream with a couple, or what inspires you with that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's super important to feel comfortable with the person who is photographing you and to have that connection at the beginning. Because if you don't have that, you're going to feel awkward in the photos. You're going to just act awkward. You're not really going to enjoy yourself, and the discomfort is going to show. So I make an effort to try and meet all my couples as much as possible before we ever shoot together. And in that meeting, we talk to each other, get to know each other. We don't just talk about weddings or whatever. We talk about like, what are your favorite TV shows? What kind of animals do you like? And I always bring up my cat's biscuit and turnip and my chinchilla's potato and tomato because I like food, obviously. Yeah, but having that connection is like, it's great. It makes it more fun for me. It makes it more fun for you guys. It's just better to get to know people on a personal level before you start shooting. And honestly, one of the favorite parts of every engagement session is driving for hours together. I think we spent probably 6 hours just driving around on Saturday. And in that time, you get to talk to each other, and you really get to become friends with your couples and get to know what's important to them.
Yeah, that really is kind of my biggest lament as a videographer, is not having that engagement session and not being able to, because like,
I think videographers should come to the engagement session. It'd be so fun.
I think it would be, because, and I do mean that, where, we got to build the connection that you guys are able to kind of establish over months of doing, I got 10 minutes walking in the door, but it is, I think it's so great. And just, over the years of doing this, and like, you have, growing, just really, just appreciating that connection that like, I never used to do, or I think like a lot of, people trying to get into weddings and don't really appreciate that kind of thing or don't think that matters. Because it is, we're still like a service-based business, but it's way more personal, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think that's the struggle with when you're starting out is you don't realize, and also couples don't realize like how much of a personality goes into a business like ours, like videography, photography. I mean, even like the cake bakers, like you want to have that fun, like relaxed experience and helpfulness from your vendors the entire time. And when you're starting out as a wedding vendor, you don't always realize that you have to put in the effort to, like build that connection and like make people comfortable. And it's not something that you start out with most of the time.
Yeah, no. And it just was interesting the other day there, a videographer posted online, they were moving up here from LA and, we're trying to, get business and break in. And basically they were offering like a finder's fee, if you refer them and they'll pay or whatever. And, it didn't so much strike me just, cause that is typical in markets. I don't think it's much in Seattle, but like East Coast and stuff, I've heard about that. But it was more just that like, that was their first go-to was like, well, how am I going to build connections here? And it's not, meeting other vendors or talking to venues or, trying to find couples and connecting that way. It was more just a monetary thing.
Right.
And it just really struck me. And I was like, that is like definitely not like, how I prioritize and I think how you do just in terms of, with like social media and online and your website and just kind of putting yourself out there,
Yeah. If money is the first thing, it's not a good thing. I think what makes us good at what we do maybe is that it comes from a place of passion to start with. If you don't start out loving what you're doing, if you start out thinking, oh, I'm going to make a ton of money in the wedding industry, it's not going to go well for you. And people probably aren't going to like you because you're not coming at it with the right heart.
Oh, absolutely. So, in terms of, talking about motivation stuff, so like you said, you grew up kind of, taking photos of clouds and stuff. Where did that, inspiration come from back in the day? How did you really get invested in photography?
So on the earliest I can remember really being into photography is when I was in second grade. We took a family trip to Turkey. My mother is from Turkey, so we go there a lot now. But anyways, our first trip, second grade, I had a tiny little Olympus film camera that was pretty much a point and shoot, but with film. And I documented the entire trip. Those photos are long gone, unfortunately. I wish I could find them to see if I was good back then. But I started then, and I didn't really realize that I had a love of photography yet, but I had a love of art. I was always drawing and painting and coloring things and all that kind of stuff. And then I wanted to be a singer in middle school. And my mom's like, this is not the most stable career path for you, but we'll support you. And then I picked up her camera and started having so much fun with it. I was like, Mom, I've got a backup plan. And she's like, slightly better than singing, I guess. So that's where it all started. And then it grew.
So are you self-taught then? Did you, take classes or how did that go?
At the beginning, it was self-taught. In middle school, I just did everything on my own. I tried to figure out how to work a manual camera, kind of failed. I remember getting my first camera with detachable lenses and I was like, I'm never going to take a bad photo ever again. This is amazing. And then I realized about like motion blur and I grew a lot. And then in high school, I took every photo class I could and every other art class that I could, because still at the heart of everything is art. And then I went to a photography summer program at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, which I fell in love with Chicago and decided then to go to school for photography at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago.
And what was that experience like? So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Kent, Washington.
Okay.
So born and raised Washingtonian.
But that's a huge leap to go. Oh, yeah. So talk about that. What was that like to go and go through that?
It wasn't as scary as it probably would have been because my brother had just gotten accepted to Illinois Institute of Technology. So he was already there and I moved in with him when I went to Chicago. And art school is a whole other thing. I feel like I didn't go to college because it was so much fun and everyone else tells about the drunken nights and like crazy stories of college. And for me, it was just 100% art all the time. I didn't have math class. I didn't really have English class. We had philosophy classes, but that was all stuff you could pick up on your own, whatever. Yeah, art school was amazing. It was just constant art all the time, and I wish I had some of the guidance now that I had back then, where they're like pushing you to do something, because personal projects definitely fall by the wayside now. But
Yeah, what do you think? Because people, for video and photo and everything, go through. People are self-taught. People go to film school. People take photography classes in college. I have like journalism that doesn't have it really. I mean, I guess what to do with telling stories now. But what were some things specifically that you feel like film school, really helped, and it could be like values that instilled in you, or skills that you learned, or technical stuff. I mean, what defines kind of you in terms of going through that experience?
So my school is not a school that teaches skills so much. The School of Art Institute of Chicago is a highly conceptual school. So if you come in there not knowing how to work a camera, you're probably going to leave more or less not knowing how to work a camera. I guess the most technical classes I ever had were the lighting classes, when we did like fashion photography. But I think I learned how to build a concept and then think about things a lot, and then expand on a concept and then figure out how to make it come to life. I took a break from photography in school and did fashion, where I actually learned how to make garments and learned how to make conceptual garments, participated in the school fashion show, which was amazing. And then went back to photography after that with the knowledge of like what it takes to make a garment. Because back in school, I wanted to be a fashion photographer, as we all do. And yeah, so I think that helped me realize that the work, even if you're doing like wedding photography, it's more powerful when it has like some kind of a concept and like a story behind it, not just here's a pretty photograph of a girl in the trees.
So, but you feel like I have no, people that can do other technical art skills. Like I have no tangible skills at all, except like putting something in front of the camera, right? And making
I don't know if I'd say I have skills other than photography.
Well, no, but I mean, like you said, you grew up, drawing and things,
right,
and doing everything else. I mean, I couldn't draw a stick figure, if you paid me. So, I mean, but I mean, do you enjoy art kind of from all those different sides then?
Yeah, I love painting. I did a study abroad in college where I went to Ireland, and I did watercolor painting where I would make anthropomorphic sheep. And it's totally like super far apart from photography, but I came from a photography base, I suppose, because we went to an aerial show where there was dancers doing aerial things on big hoops and all that kind of stuff. And I took lots of photos of that. And from there, I used those images to then paint sheep. Because Ireland is full of sheep, obviously. Yeah. But I don't know that I'm good at all of the other arts, the drawing and the painting, but it's fun, and it's a way to release and like get out of photography sometimes, because if you just stay in one thing constantly, I think you burn out faster. And having other methods of getting my creativity out helps me still love photography, even though I do it constantly.
No, I think that's interesting. I think that it sharpens, all different sides, and being, in front of the camera and then doing, like I said, I wish I just don't have that ability.
Just start drawing. That's all you got to do. You don't have to be good at it. I'm not saying I'm good at it. You just do it.
That's funny. So you're in school, you're studying photography and everything. So then, leaving school, was that the first plan? What were we doing after school?
Oh, so the plan was to move to New York with my boyfriend and become a fashion photographer. But I had mad bunions on both sides of both feet, which is like super personal information, but whatever. So standing for long periods of time was awful. And I was like, if I'm going to be a photographer, I have to be able to stand for long periods of time. You don't really get to sit on a set. So I moved back home and got my feet dealt with, which put me off my feet for 6 weeks at a time for each foot. So it was 12 weeks of not really being able to walk like a, normal, able-bodied human being. So I had a knee cane at the time, which helped me kind of hobble around. And I was sitting there with my boyfriend, who was a photo editor at the time. And I was like, John, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. What am I going to do? And he's like, Zoe, be a photographer. I was like, oh, you can just be a photographer. So then I became a photographer. We got the business license and all that stuff and got myself set up, sort of a plan in place, and became a photographer.
What was it like kind of going through that process? I always ask, like, did you have family members that were entrepreneurs, or did you have any sort of semblance of what it looks like to start a business, or was it kind of trial and error?
Starting, not so much. My parents own their own business, and they have it was my grandpa's, and it passed down to them. So they run a successful business that was failing before they owned it. So I have sort of a business sense from them, but I don't consider myself a math person or anything like that. I'm an artistic-minded person. I can't do math and all that. So starting the business was a little weird, but John helped me through it a lot because at the same time he was starting his own editing business. So between the two of us, we found a way to make it happen. And then from there, it was just finding clients and figuring out what it meant to be a photographer. And like we talked about, I don't think at the beginning I knew how to provide a good experience for people, or that the connection was so important, but figured it out.
Right. So what was it like kind of, those early, like I always used to joke, because we've had Rosie, our dog, the whole time that, I've had the business, and that first year, like we took a lot of like really long walks, and it was a lot of like trying to fill time after I quit my job.
Yeah.
What was it like kind of starting out and finding those clients and finding your voice?
It was a lot of crying, lots and lots of crying, too much crying, and constantly going to John and being like, I'm not good enough for this. How is anyone going to hire me? My photography is not good enough. Because like I'm comparing myself to, like Tim Walker, and I'm not Tim Walker. And I definitely wasn't back then. So it was a really scary process, but at the same time, I didn't come from a place where I was quitting a job like a lot of people do when they start their creative business. I just dove right in, so I think it was less scary. I still had 6 months before my student loans were going to kick in, so I didn't really have any bills. I was living in my parents' house. So I was very fortunate that I had all the support around me, that I could just dive in and not really have to worry about paying money for anything in the process.
You're saying you were at a pretty ground floor level. There was only where to go was up.
Yeah, exactly. I think I was starting out at a very good spot. And yeah.
That's good. What was some things that you struggled through early on, that maybe you thought you didn't think you were going to struggle through, or that you knew, and how you kind of got, like I always talk about, like taxes and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, but like, coming up with a website, right, coming up with a voice, coming up with a client, what were some of the things like that?
The first one that got me the most, and which is the reason for all the crying, was like constant rejection. Nobody prepares you for that. Nobody tells you how much rejection is involved in our business. I don't even know how to compare it to a job that's not in our field, but you got to think about, like, we get 10 inquiries. Maybe one person even responds to us when we send out an email. And that it just like, it drags you down. And that's why you're like, I'm not good enough because no one's responding to me. So it was a lot of figuring out how to write emails that people actually wanted to respond to. What was the question again?
Oh, no, that's great.
On a tangent.
I do think that rejection is so hard. And I think, there's just even just during this year, lots of posts about, couples ghosting and not letting people know. And just, I think, forgetting that there's, people behind everything, you know what I mean? And
it's not just an email.
Yeah. And I mean, even now, 6.5 years in, you still like, it's still hard. It's still hard to find, out that, people are going a different direction or, here. And so, I think expecting that early on, I think would be very difficult.
Yeah. I think just down the line, you stop taking it personally. At the beginning, it's just like, you think it's a personal attack. You think it's because you're not good enough, and it's really not that. I think about 1.5 years ago, is when I really decided to pick a niche. Because before, like every other photographer, I was taking everything that came through my door, which highly recommend to all photographers out there, don't do that. It's not good for the clients. It's not good for you because you're doing stuff that, one, you might not be good at, and two, that you hate, which is going to make your photos bad. That's why I don't photograph children. I'm not good at it. I can tell you a million people that are great at it and they'll do super well for you, but I won't. So I don't do it. So I think picking a niche and like picking what you love doesn't mean that you exclusively have to shoot that. But if that's what you're marketing to the world, that's what you're going to get the most of. And you're going to love your job a lot more. And that's what I found. I loved my job so much more when I realized that I like working with couples. My entire life, I've been a romantic person, love romance, love people kissing, super into all that. So it was the perfect thing for me to do with myself. And learning that the like corporate headshots and stuff just drained me. So it's super important, I think, to pick something that you love and just do that. And don't say, oh, I love photography. Well, there's a million types of photography to love. So pick the one that makes you the happiest and do that most.
No, it's hard. And I do think when people ask, or people that are outside of the field and ask, well, don't you do that? Or don't you do that? And you almost feel like it's like a lacking that like maybe you should do that. Like, we get that all the time, with videography, the drone shit is just huge. And everybody went, well, I have 3 or 4 guys that are all, licensed and whatever. And then if we need a drone, we can hire them and they go do it. And I'm like, I could spend 1,000 hours trying to do all that stuff, but it still wouldn't make me be as good of a drone pilot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's hard. That was like, it's been years of trying to like struggle with that for me. And I'm like, why would I spend so much, I don't know, that much time, going through all that, and I'm still not going to be good at it or as good as they are that have, why not spend, your energy doing stuff that you want to do and then let, someone that wants to do babies or wants to do whatever do. But it's hard because I do think that people think, well, you're a photographer, you should just do all that stuff.
Well, there's huge pressure from our clients or maybe a perceived pressure from them that we should be jack of all trades, but it's not beneficial for them. It's not beneficial for us. I think as a photographer, a lot of people expect that I do video. I don't touch that with a 10-foot pole. I make my way through my photo editing. I can't even imagine editing a video. That's hours of watching the same thing over and over and over again. I'm good with stills. And the same as you said with drones, like a lot of photographers are getting into the drone photography, which looks like a lot of fun. And I'm super interested in trying it out personally, but I want to give my clients like the best of what I have to offer, not be like, here's a sort of, I tried this. It might not be good, but I don't know.
Oh,
Not that you shouldn't try new things because you should, but.
It is. No, I think it's a tough balance. I think it's tough wanting to expand. And then also, I don't know. I mean, the drone photographer thing, it's like, so if you have an hour engagement session and you're going to spend 25 minutes of that sending the drone up to get 4 shots.
Is it worth it?
I guess it is. And I guess if that's what you want to do, but that's the way I look at that. And I look at some photographers, even now where like our timelines, wedding day are so tight, right?
Oh, yeah.
You have like, we got 10 minutes to do the dress. We got 10 minutes to do, and then you're like, so where the hell?
Sometimes you get 10 minutes to do the whole bridal portrait. Yeah. And you're like, what?
And so then it's like, but then where the hell are you going to fit in? Okay. So then you're going to go fly a drone for 45, that's why like when we do it, I just hire it out and then they can do that either before or after we're there
and they're fully focused on it.
Or while we're doing everything else. But I just, our timelines, especially this summer, have been so tight and packed and overwhelming, really for the couple, really overwhelming this year. But I just don't get where all that time is going to come from that people think they have. But that's a total tangent.
Right. No, I totally get you. I get you. And I think if, I don't know how couples come up with their timelines. I love it when they consult me ahead of time. And I'm sure I don't know if you get consulted as a videographer about the timeline, but if couples talk to their vendors more, each of them, like what is a timeline that makes sense for this, then you'd come up with a better plan altogether. But I think sometimes the photographer and the videographer get a little left out of that conversation, even if I'm like, hey, give me an hour and a half. And they're like, here's 5 minutes. I'm like, solid. It's going to go great.
No, we had our wedding, one of our weddings this weekend. I was talking with the planner and I said, they extended us and we're going to stay until 10 o'clock. That'll be the exit. And she goes, no, the exit's at 11:30. And I said, oh, well, the timeline that we have, I said, here, it's got your name on it. She goes, oh, that's not, they had gone in and like modified it. And so she's like, oh, I should really know that. So keep all your vendors in the loop.
Yeah. Super important.
So what do you love most about doing what you do now and working for yourself, having, your name on everything? I mean, is that something you take pride in, and talk about kind of furthering that brand and getting your name out there?
Yes, definitely take pride in my work. And I want to make sure that everyone, like all the vendors I recommend and stuff and all that, they all help to further my vision, I guess, of like making a relaxing, comfortable day for people. I don't like to work with people that are really high strung because it stresses other people out, and keeping the couple as stress free as possible is super important to me. I want to take away all of their pain so they can just enjoy their day. Furthering my brand. That's a hard question.
Because it's it's always, it's one thing when you're, taking photos in college or in high school.
Yeah.
But then when it's like,
right.
This is my thing, this is what I do, this is me, it's just, it's a big leap there,
Right. And I guess like everyone's brand is themselves. And if it's not themselves, then maybe they're not quite doing it right. Or maybe they are. I don't know. I'm not a branding expert by any means, but mine is myself. And so it's just like about being relaxed and like having fun, because that's all I want to do. I just want to have fun. I used to, when people asked me, what do you photograph? I was like, I photograph anything that sounds like fun, which is what I've always tried to do. And I guess furthering that, going forth into the future. I don't know how to answer that.
It's okay. You've done
question.
Good. It was a tough question, but I think we got some good insights on there. So
okay.
Yeah, talk about, in terms of, your experience on the wedding day. What are the things, like you said, you look for fun things. What are your favorite parts of a wedding day to photograph? And you can't just say fun, but why are those things your favorite to photograph? To expand on that.
I love working directly with the couple. I like when the bride's getting ready and we just get to kind of hang out and document that process, which is a weird process to be documented, I think, because you don't normally have yourself getting your hair and makeup done and putting a dress on documented. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. And of course, I love working with the couple directly, because it's finally there. It's finally the wedding day. They've been waiting for this. They've been planning for it, and it's finally happening. And when they get to see each other the first time, it's that really special moment. And sometimes it's just like a funny moment because it doesn't necessarily go how you imagine it to go, but it's still exciting for them. Let's see, my other favorite parts of the wedding day. The first dances, specifically the father-daughter dance, that one always gets me. I'm really close to my dad, so that one just makes me cry every time. So I'm sitting there behind the camera like, thank God I got a camera in front of my face so nobody can see me weeping in the corner. I like the really emotional parts of the day. I as much as I love dancing, like photographing the actual party dancing isn't my favorite bit, but I like the bits with the most emotion, I suppose.
Yeah, I get, I've gotten emotional again this year now editing. I think a couple weeks ago I was a little more tired. And the last couple, it's not so much there, but definitely when we get home, it's a little more, when you get the music and stuff, it's a little more. But I mean, it is, do you find yourself getting really caught up in those emotions?
Oh, yeah.
You said you're a romantic, right?
Oh, yeah. Hardcore. I cry at almost every wedding. If I'm not crying, it's because I'm super focused. If they have their own vows, I usually cry a lot. I'm just like, make good photos, stop crying. I've been a romantic since childhood. And so there's always that idea of like that person loving you so much, they want to be with you forever. And it's really special.
So you grew up like watching like romantic comedies and stuff, or what?
Yeah, a lot of everything. I mean, I think the first movie I really remember that wasn't a cartoon was Titanic, and my first love was Jack. So after falling in love with Leonardo DiCaprio and like his beautiful romance in that film, it just escalated from there.
He's still, I mean, it's been what, 20 years later, right?
Yeah.
He's still as charming as he ever was.
Super charming and an activist, which is great.
But so just really getting caught up in those moments. Oh, I was going to say, the planning and like you said, wanting people to enjoy their day. And that was something that we were talking about with our photographer this week was so many of our weddings this year have had like so much time put into it. And I don't know, it just happened that like our August had a lot of weddings that had just been on the books for a long time. And it's so hard. And that's my advice for couples moving forward is really to try to enjoy your day.
Yeah.
There's just been so many lately where there's certain parts of the day and I'm like, are they having fun? Like, are we, cause it is supposed to be, and it is this tough balance and you're juggling everything and you have families and money and time and everything. But
right.
Like our couple this weekend really, took a point to really enjoy everything and talk to everybody. And it's like, do you want to go do photos now? Or do you want to say, no, we want to spend 20 minutes talking, we want to make sure we see everybody. It's like making those decisions to make sure that you can enjoy it. I mean, do you notice that?
Oh, absolutely. I make a point when I do have the timeline conversation, whether I'm super involved or not, I tell them, every couple, and some of them listen to me, like plan 20 minutes before the ceremony and after for you guys to just sit together alone and like talk and be married and be excited about this and think about like this is happening and enjoy it. 'Cause it makes me really sad. One of my clients who became a really good friend of mine, I got to attend her wedding after I was done shooting as a guest, which was great. And afterwards she told me like, I don't really remember most of the day. And I was like, that kills me. 'Cause it's like, it should be nice and slow that you can enjoy it. And I've been doing business coaching lately, and a huge thing that my business coach has instilled in me is to slow down. 'Cause when we just try and like get through everything really fast, no one's enjoying it. Or, I mean, maybe you're enjoying it a little bit, but you don't remember it. And I take photos sometimes on those fast weddings, and I go back and I'm like, I don't even remember taking this photo, which is crazy because I usually have very vivid memories of every photo I take. So I think that slowing down needs to happen in the wedding world. I think the slowing down means things cost more money, which is the reason people probably don't, and they want to like shove everything into a 3-hour time period. But slowing down benefits everybody. It makes the whole experience better for everybody, especially the couple. Yeah,
it's tough because we were having this conversation that if you're stressed doing family photos, or if you're stressed doing whatever, and like you're going to remember those feelings later, right? Yeah. Like if we have a really crappy whatever, trying to get through stuff. And that was like, we were talking with the venue manager on Saturday, and she said, well, man, like you guys are really putting in your hours here. And I said, well, no, we're only here for 8 hours today. I said, normally we normally do a 10-hour day because we do like, to have a little bit of that time. Because when you try to, like you said, it's that cost cutting, trying to like get everything into 5. I mean, that's why I don't prefer to do those, because it is just going to be, it's like a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And then you move on,
Yeah. Yep. I think I tend to shoot shorter weddings because of the clientele I market to, which is people with smaller weddings. I like under 50 guests if possible. But even then, like a 3-hour wedding can be a really nice and slow wedding. Or a 4-hour wedding can be a really nice and slow wedding. It just depending on how you schedule it and like what's important to you. Like you said, like, does the couple actually want to take these photos, or is this the photo team pressuring them like, oh, we want these for our portfolio, so let's go take these photos. If there's a beautiful sunset and my couples don't want to shoot, I let them dance and talk to people and party. It's not about us, it's about them. So letting them live their day the way they want to is really important. Tangent, sorry.
No, I think it's totally valid, and it's tough because, and it's not a bad thing because it used to be, when you start out and like every wedding you do has to be the best one ever for your website. It has to be, and because I talk with Dorothy all the time about it, like, not every wedding is a website wedding, but that's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Like people think like, oh, well, that's not, it's like, well, no, like it's just not, I need more complete videos to market on my site, but that doesn't mean if you don't want to go do all that stuff that it's not you.
Good. Yeah,
you're going to have I have tons of videos of stuff where we didn't go do epic, whatever, but we are a visual medium and I gotta have a couple of those to market. But I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that your day was, it just meant that you spent stuff maybe on, spent time on stuff that wasn't as visually stimulating, but that does not mean that it wasn't, you know what I mean? But it's a tough balance.
I was talking to my buddy yesterday. She's getting married and I'm photographing her wedding this weekend. And she's scared that her wedding, she's looking at all of these pictures and videos of weddings, and she's scared that it's not going to be as good. And I was like, look, some of my favorite weddings that I've shot aren't necessarily, like you said, website weddings. They're not the most beautiful wedding in the world, but they were so emotional and the couple had so much fun and they were so in love. And like, that's what it's about. It's not about, the Pinterest of it all and like having the perfect centerpiece and the perfect like wisteria dangling from the ceiling and the fireworks at the end or whatever. That's not what a wedding should be. It's about love. Coming back to the romantic side of me. It's 100% about love. And if the love isn't there, the most beautiful wedding in the world shouldn't be a website wedding because it's, there's no emotion in it. And I think throughout my career, that's the one thing that has been really important to me is when people say, I hired you because you had real people on your website and we could see like the emotion in your photos. That trumps everything for me. It doesn't matter if I haven't shot on the top of Mount Rainier or, in like Chile or something. It doesn't matter because if I've actually captured the emotion and they feel something looking at my photos, then I've succeeded. So it doesn't matter how beautiful the wedding is. You can get that at any wedding.
That's great. That was good. No, but because I can't remember one of these podcasts lately, we were talking about, Instagram and like, I don't think a lot of, the video stuff that we do is really like Instagram friendly because it is a lot more of those moments. And like the wedding that we just delivered yesterday, like, that we're walking around, that he's got 3 guys helping him tie his tie, she's dancing, but it's more like you said, like these real moments, but it's not like, does that translate to like a beautiful Instagram video? Like, no, but that doesn't matter. Right. It's more of there, but so it's focusing on the things that matter. And like you said, kind of capturing those real tangible things. And even if it is just like a quiet moment in the corner and she's sitting there with her grandma or whatever, it's more real stuff. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish that Instagram was more actually real. I saw a really good picture today and yesterday. It was an apple looking in a mirror, and in the mirror it was a perfect apple, and in the back it was had a giant bite out of it, and it was like, this is basically what Instagram is. It's this fake beautiful facade, but really we're all a mess in the back.
I saw that same post.
Yeah,
I was like,
it's a good one, and I mean it's really true, as cheesy as it might be. And I mean I'm criminal, whatever. What am I trying to say?
You're guilty.
I've done it. Yeah, I'm guilty too.
Yeah.
I you post like the really pretty ones. I try to get in there once in a while and post like a silly one or something that's more real. But it's hard because you feel like you have to compete with all those people, like the Hearns and Henry too. I don't know how to say his name. He's amazing. But like their photos are so grand, and I'm like, it's not always grand. How do I compete with that? I don't know. It's hard.
No, it's hard.
Struggle's real.
Yeah. And so like you said, so you, your main focus is more, smaller, more intimate things. Talk about kind of the couples that like to work with you and that you resonate with.
I had a friend ask me why we never cross paths. And that's because she does big fancy weddings for bridezillas, and I work with chill people that are really relaxed and half the time don't even like to wear makeup. I'm a really relaxed human being. I try to be real with people. I try to be like a person. I don't really hide who I am. I don't think I'm pretty much an open book, and that attracts people that are also very chill and open and calm. Everyone asks me, what's your craziest wedding story? I don't have one. All of my brides have been super chill. They've been super nice. I haven't had a single bridezilla in the 4.5 years I've been doing this because my personality doesn't attract that kind of person. I don't spend time with those kinds of people in real life. Not that those kinds of people are bad. I just don't get along with them as well as people that do want to go on a hike or want to play board games in a cute shop in Seattle or, want to go on a Ferris wheel. Those are the kind of people that are attracted to me that I'm also attracted to. So,
how do you find, like you're talking about like the engagement sessions and I assume like other portrait sessions, how do you find those locations? Is that a collaboration with them? Or are those your ideas or those theirs? I mean, it's just
it's a mix of everything. Yeah. Some of it is stuff I've found, accidentally on other engagement sessions or hiking. Sometimes they have really specific locations that, are special to them. Pardon me. Yeah, it's a mix. And then sometimes I just wander out into the wild and I'm like, oh, this is really pretty. I should bring somebody here. Like Palouse Falls, I figured I had to get to the bottom and I really want to take somebody down there. But got to find someone that wants to drive 4 hours each way to go out there. But yeah, it's a collaboration, really, to find locations.
How do you kind of keep growing now? How do you keep bettering yourself? Is it hard just to, it's hard to not be complacent, and how do you continue to kind of just expand kind of what you're doing in your skill set and everything else?
In true artist form, I never think I'm good enough. So, and the goal is to always keep growing and never feel like I've made it. I think once you feel like you've made it, that's when you become super complacent. And I definitely don't feel like I've made it. So, I try to read books, especially more lately. I try to read books about creativity because that's a huge insecurity of mine. I worry that I'm not as creative as I could be. I think a lot of us worry about that. And I look at other art, not just photography, because that just, sends me in a spiral down into like sad world. If you just look at other people doing the same thing you're doing, constantly comparing yourself. So I look at like painting and drawing, and I try to watch lots of movies and TV, and even like the bad TV, Riverdale, for all those who know me well. It's inspiring in some way. You can pull something out of everything you interact with. And then of course, traveling is super inspiring for helping you grow, and like seeing how other people live in their world and interact with people is great. Like in Turkey, people are really affectionate. And here, they're not. And so the affection there, like just between friends, is inspiring.
So you travel a lot now still?
I try as much as possible.
Talk about, the inspiration and where you, like you said, you have family from Turkey, but where do you like to go and explore?
I think my favorite place I've ever been is Ireland. It's beautiful. The people were nice. It just was a really relaxed atmosphere. I don't know how exactly true my next statement is going to be, but it's like the land isn't owned by people. You can just kind of go wherever you want as long as you're not bothering anyone's sheep or like breaking somebody's field or fence or whatever. They're pretty chill about you just exploring. And that's a really beautiful thing here. It's just like no trespassing signs everywhere. It's like I've seen yesterday, gorgeous forest, wanted to go there desperately, couldn't. No trespassing signs everywhere. And you're like, I don't want a guy with a gun to come out and kill me trying to take a photo. Yeah, so Ireland is huge. Turkey, obviously, I love going back there and actually traveling around the country. Istanbul's amazing. It's not scary like the news makes it out to be, guys. Turkey's not a scary place. Everyone should go and check it out, and they're super welcoming and loving. They just want to show you how amazing their country is, and it really is.
Because I was going to ask you about that, like when you had brought up earlier, because I'm like, isn't that kind of like a treacherous place to travel?
No, not treacherous. No, it's perfectly safe. My brother was there during the coup because he lives out there, and it was basically a joke. I mean, obviously a lot of bad things happened, but it was all in the political realm. It wasn't to the ordinary folks on the street, pretty much, unless they're super political. So Alex, stop being political. That's my brother. He maybe talks more than he should. But yeah, it's pretty safe. And like I said, the Turkish people are super welcoming and open, and they just want to show you how wonderful Turkey is.
But you find a lot of inspiration from traveling and just seeing, I mean, just different like feel like different textures and colors and lights. And I mean, everywhere
I always
you go.
thought that I hated the desert. And then I went to Utah and I was like, oh, damn, I don't hate the desert anymore. This is actually, granted, the first time I saw Utah was in the snow, which made me like it more probably than I would if it was just, you know, like dead stuff. I'm being mean to Utah. Utah's great. But so not even internationally, traveling just in the United States, I've grown a lot more in the types of landscapes that I enjoy. And it's forced me to try and shoot different ways because, you know, if you're in the South and it's super sunny, you can't necessarily shoot as dark as you can here in Washington, where it's dark all the time.
What do you wish more people asked, or, you know, in terms of like weddings and booking? You know, what do you wish more people like asked about in the booking process and thought about photography? Like, you know, we kind of talked about like timelines and stuff. Like, what do you wish, you know, that you find you're educating clients about, you know, time management or getting their shot list? I don't know. What do you find you're having to educate more people with just in terms of photography?
The timeline is a huge one. People don't think about how long things take or how long, like as we talk, things should take. When you slow down, better things can happen. So I wish that I guess maybe it's on me. I should reach out more about the timeline and encourage people like, this is the way we should do it. If you have to do it that way, that's fine. But this is the best way. So timeline, and then something that I see a lot online, maybe not necessarily my clients, but people feeling like they have to hire someone that's worked at their venue before. That one gets me just a little bit, because if you're a talented vendor, whether you're a photographer, videographer, cake maker, whatever, you can make good work anywhere. Half of the time on an engagement session, we end up somewhere I've never been before. That's the best kind of engagement session, because otherwise I'm just, you know, making the same stuff over and over, which I try not to do. So when you're in a new place, you can see it with totally new eyes. If you're somebody who shoots in the same venue every single week, you're gonna like get into a routine of just doing the same thing every week, which isn't great for you and isn't great for your clients, although they're going to love their photos regardless because it's them. But yeah, that's, I guess, the two things: timeline, and then you don't have to have somebody that's worked in your venue before to work it again. Yeah, no, and the whole like I go back and forth because they people want to do like walkthroughs and stuff, venue walkthroughs, and you know, I mean, I do think it's helpful to like have like at least have some frame of reference of like what a space is, but also like, you know, you could do a walkthrough today and then tomorrow it's rainy or it's sunny or it's different, or, you know, the thing that always kills me is they'll be like, I'm going to go outside. I'm going to figure out like where we're going to do the first look. And you're like, okay. And then like an hour and a half later, we go outside and they're like, oh, the light's totally different. We can't use this. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's why I didn't come with you an hour and a half ago to look and figure out where we're going to do the first look, because it does. It just changes. It's totally different. You know, and also like doing the walkthrough, like we had this, we had a bride a couple years ago that we just couldn't, she wanted us to do a walkthrough. We couldn't do it. It was like a Friday night late. We just couldn't accommodate it. And then there was like problems with her ceremony and it was really dark, and you know, our cameras did fine, but she just wasn't happy with kind of the lighting just in general of the, you know, whether photo, video, just in general, she wasn't happy with the lighting. Yeah. And I said, well, it wouldn't have changed anything if we would have come down there anyway the night before. Like, it's still going to be the same. Unless you brought like spotlights. Yeah, right. Unless you hire the lighting package overnight. Like, it's not going to change anything whether I see it or not. You know, so it's tough to kind of make those balances too in that expectation. Yeah. Yeah. And at least for me, I always show up to every wedding early and I do my own walkthrough. So I'm going to see it before you get married regardless. And I don't need months to plan, although I'm happy to do walkthroughs. Not a problem. But it's not like 100% necessary in every situation. Yeah, because you get that question all the time. Like, well, I need somebody to shot here. And like you said, like, well, I can probably figure it out. You know? Yeah, I will 100% figure it out. It's not a problem.
Yeah, I always like showing up and then back. Oh, this is the first time I've done this. Like, what are we doing? It's like obviously not. You have some frame of reference of what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Well, good. We're starting to wind down here. What's your goals? It's October. We're kind of getting hopefully done with wedding season. Like I said, we have similar amounts of weddings left this year. What are you looking forward to in the off season, and what are you trying to do for next year in 2020?
I'm stoked to revamp my website with all the stuff I've shot this summer. I'm hoping to travel a lot more in 2020 for work, not just for fun. I get to go to Texas this year, which is kind of exciting. Then 2020
for work.
Yeah, for a wedding. I want to do more fashion, like personal projects, a lot, because I realized this year that I miss fashion a lot. It was a lot of fun doing that really fantastical storytelling that, while weddings have that fashion element to them, it's not the same kind of over the top, like this world doesn't exist, but I wish it did, sort of storytelling that fashion has. So I want to get more into that. And I dream of having more time for painting as well. But with photography, I just want to keep working with couples that like want to get out in the wild and like go do fun things and explore with me and move slowly.
Take the time
to really enjoy themselves, and so we can all like have a great time together. And I want to meet more people. That's the goal.
Good.
Keep enjoying life.
Keep enjoying life. Those are good goals. Meeting new people and enjoying life.
And traveling.
Traveling. Well, this has been, so great, catching up with you. Thanks,
Thank you
again for coming in. Like I said, I do, I try to make it easy. I do think it's, it's a better experience to come in and see.
Everything's more fun in person.
and see Rosie. Rosie's high on,
she's so cute.
On pain meds right now from her dental appointment.
You guys should see her. She's all cuddled up in her bed.
She is high as a kite. So it's a good
the best kind of animal.
Well, again, thank you so much. If people want to learn more about you and your photography, see your website, Instagram, all that, where would you have them check out?
My website is just zoeburchard.com, and my Instagram is @ZoeBurchard, keeping it simple.
I like that. It's easy. Vendors this year, tagging people.
Oh, yeah.
And Facebook especially. If there is 16 different Joe's Kitchen Shop or whatever, and you are the one in Seattle, it is really hard for me to find out.
The struggle.
But like, I don't care what it is, but it's got to be something that I can.
Yep. And then some of my favorite vendors, they have such long names for their businesses. I'm like, I don't know I know their first name and their last name. I have no idea what their business is called.
No, the Facebook thing this year is the death of me and trying to find the right, if there's 16 different ones of the same name, I would get a different name.
Yeah.
It's the pages. So anyway, that's a tangent for another day. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. If you're like Zoe and you want to come on the podcast, or if you're interested in coming on, you can go to www.bestmadevideos.com/podcast guest. And that's a nice, easy questionnaire I have set up, to kind of get some info and get you in the system. And thanks again, making the drive. And what are we today? Tuesday. And
Tuesday.
We're getting through it. The sun or the rain isn't coming yet. So
yep, making it.
This has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week for another wedding vendor interview. Thanks so much.